Hi, Sarah. Hi, Dr. Sarah. It's only love. Can you hear me? Hi. Okay. Hi, Dr. Sarah.
Hi, Olila. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, great.
I was
Thank
just
you.
hi. I was just saying, hi,
Hi.
Sarah. Um, and so I know we're a little early. I hope everyone got there. Hi, Miss. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. And Nancy, you should be a panelist. So, and welcome everyone. We will be getting started at 1 o'clock.
We'll believe in freedom cannot rest. You believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We'll believe in freedom cannot rest. Hear me talking to you. We'll believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Until the killing of black men against the killing of white men, white mother and sons. We who believe in freedom and not rest. Sing it with me if you like it. We who believe in freedom and not rest until it the older I get, the better I know that the secret of my going on is when the reins are in the hands of the young who dare to run against the storm. 'Cause to me, young people come first. They have the courage where we fail. And if I can but shed some light, I say, carry us through the gales. We who believe in freedom and not rest. Let me talking to you. We who believe in freedom and not rest until it comes. Then struggling myself don't need a whole lot. I've come to realize that teaching others to stand up and fight is the only way my struggle survives. I'm a woman who speaks in a voice, and I must be heard. At times I can be quite difficult. How about no man's word? We believe in freedom and not rest. Hear me talking to you. We believe in freedom and not rest until it comes. Not needing to clutch for power, not needing the light just to shine on me. I need to be one in the number as we stand against tyranny. We believe in freedom and not rest. Oh, we believe in freedom and not rest until it
Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water, when God's gonna trouble the water. Come on and wade in the water, you gotta wade. land of the Israelites gonna trouble the water. Well, now you wanna wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade on in the water. Until God's gonna trouble the water. See those children dressed in black. God's gonna trouble the water. Well, you know, they come a long way, ain't turning back. God's gonna trouble the water. See the children, they're dressed up in blue. You know my God's gonna trouble the water. Yeah, I see it looks like my people, they're coming on through. Well, my God's gonna trouble the water. Well, everybody just wait in the water. Wait in the water. Children, wait in the water. Children, wait in the water. Wait in the water. My God's gonna trouble the water. See those children dressed in red. My God, He's gonna trouble.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Minister Only Love Alston, the Racial Justice Organizing Fellow for the Interfaith Center of New York. And we want to welcome everyone to Racially Just Civic Engagement for Faith Leaders. And this is hosted by the Interfaith Center of New York, the Mayor's Office of Civic Engagement, the Mayor's Office of Faith and Community Partnerships, and the New York City Racial Justice Commission. And so we want to thank all of our partners. We want to thank everyone who is speaking and leading prayer today. But this will be an opportunity where we open up the floor to hear from you. And so we, in this critical election season in our city, in this critical time in our nation, it's extremely important that we understand how to engage civically in a powerful way, but also rooted in our faith. And so we are grateful for all of you that are here today, and we're looking forward to a very powerful conversation this day. And so now we're going to invite Bishop Raymond Rivera, founder and president of the Latino Pastoral Action Center, to open us up in prayer. And I am very, very grateful for the mentorship and the partnership of Bishop Ray Rivera. He knows how to merge the faith-rooted, the racially just, and being civically engaged in a way that is filled with integrity for his community. And so I am so grateful to you, Bishop, for opening us up in prayer. And so now, Bishop, I would just ask if you can unmute yourself and bless us with the prayer. And thank you so much for being on. Hi, Bishop, we can't hear you. And you might want to connect to the audio, Bishop. Okay, Bishop, you might want to just reconnect to the audio. And if you can be patient with us. You know, we're still utilizing,
How about now? Can you hear me?
yes, we can hear you now, Bishop. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your patience. So it's a privilege to be able to invoke the name of the Lord over this gathering and stand with the other faith leaders that are going to be part of this dialogue and part of this public discourse. Lord God, we thank you for this opportunity. We come to you in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, in the name of the many faith traditions that invoke your name. We pray for guidance and direction. From the beginning, the faith community has provided guidance and direction in the public square as it deals with racial issues and civic engagement and collaboration. So we pray for that spirit now to dominate this dialogue and this discourse in the 21st century that we find ourselves in. We ask for historical wisdom from the cloud of witnesses that surround us, those that have come before us, and we stand on their shoulders. We look to tradition, Lord. We look to your word. We look to the living body of the faith community for this collective wisdom. And we pray that you may just provide guidance as we resist these many ills, particularly characterized by racism and colonialism. We pray for your guidance. We pray in the name of our God. Amen and amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Bishop. Thank you so much for that powerful prayer. And we deeply appreciate you and looking forward to hearing from you in the dialogue as well. Thank you. And so now we're going to, I'm going to actually introduce the racial justice work of the Interfaith Center of New York. And so again, we thank everyone who is here today. We know you are all extremely busy, so we hope that this will be quick and powerful. Again, my name is Minister Only Love Chica Alston, and I joined the Interfaith Center of New York as the Racial Justice Organizing Fellow after about 13 years of doing faith-based organizing in New York, Baltimore, DC, and starting in West Africa and with our African communities in the diaspora. And the racial justice work of the Interfaith Center of New York is seeking to bring a racial lens to the wide diversity of the Interfaith Center's work. So we not only work with those from the Abrahamic faiths, but we also work with those from African traditional religions. We work with Hindus, with Sikhs, with Jews of all colors, a very, very diverse group, Buddhists, various types of Christians. And so we wanted to wed the religious diversity with the racial justice. So that has looked like hosting the Manhattan DA Candidates Forum focused on over-policed and underserved communities with Exodus Transitional Community Circles of Support in the Senegalese Sufi community. That also looks like working with the Micah Institute, which Bishop Rivera is one of the co-founders of and one of the steering committee leaders of and co-conveners. And shout out to anyone from the Micah Institute. That looks like working together with Micah to convene public meetings with various faith leaders around the 2021 elections, doing ranked choice voting trainings, but also working to put together an interfaith racial and economic justice compact for New York City. And so we are happy to say we are almost at the final kind of editing process of that, but we listened to the feedback in the meetings that we had, but also bringing the feedback from our communities to inform this compact that will be presented to all mayoral candidates to endorse, but will also serve as an organizing guidepost for the next 4 years of our organizing. We're addressing COVID relief. We're addressing hate crimes. We're addressing the need to even strengthen the great work that the Mayor's Office and Faith and Community Partnerships have done with the faith community. And this is not in isolation. When I was the executive director of Faith in New York, we had the Faith Over Fear Interfaith platform endorsed by over 30 groups, some on this call, but also Micah did a covenant in the last election, and that covenant directly resulted in the Mayor's Office of Faith and Community Partnerships. And so we believe that it is critical for faith leaders to take bold stands for racial justice, but not only in rallies and protests, but in helping to shape policy in our city, helping to not preaching and telling our people who to vote for. That's wrong faith civic engagement that we've seen over the years, but by making sure our people know about the elections, know about ranked choice voting, and have the information and the tools to make an educated, faith-rooted decision in the polls. So, you know, from my heritage as an African American, people, including ministers, died for us to have the right to vote. And so for many of us, you know, I worked with Reverend Michael McBride, who created All Souls to the Polls, which is being attacked in Georgia now, where where faith leaders would go to the polls and watch for safety, provide drinks and food. And so, you know, one thing I like that Bishop Rivera says, and I've also, as someone who does ministry in Africa, I hear this from the African elders, you know, for people of color, especially for Latinos and African Americans of African descent, we don't see the sacred and the secular. It is one. We don't see racial justice over here and faith over here. It's one. And so today, we hope that we can start to integrate that, but also I want to give honor and recognition to Reverend Chloe Breyer, who is the executive director of the Interfaith Center, and my other Interfaith Center colleagues. We are really dedicated to making sure that there's not only interfaith conversation and organizing going on, but that there is racially diverse interfaith conversation and organizing going on so that we can make tangible changes for our community. So thank you so much for being with us today. And we will be following up with the Interfaith Racial and Economic Justice Compact. You please, please sign up for our email list, and I will put the way to do that in the chat so you get a copy of that compact. We'll also be doing one-to-ones with faith, nonprofit, and advocacy leaders about that compact, and having a public MICA meeting to present the compact. And thank you for anyone who helped contribute to the compact. And now I want to introduce a long-term sister in faith work in New York City, and a former staff member of the Interfaith Center of New York, Dr. Sarah Said, the Executive Director of the Mayor's Office of Civic Engagement. And she's going to talk about what the Civic Engagement Office is and what they're looking forward to doing with the faith community. So thank you, Sarah, for partnering with this. She was a thought partner on this event, a co-conspirator and my co-laborer in this event. So it's great working with you again, Sarah.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Only Love, for all the work that you're doing at the Interfaith Center. And it's really, really great to come and partner with you all. You know, the Interfaith Center was one of the most wonderful experiences I've had professionally, just connecting with a diverse and gorgeous mosaic of faith communities all across the city. And love the opportunity to continue to do that work in my current capacity working for government. And when I left the Interfaith Center, I went to the Mayor's Community Affairs Unit and did several years of Muslim engagement for the administration. And now I'm running the Civic Engagement Commission, which I wanted to tell you about because you might not be too familiar with it as a new city agency. And it's an agency that was actually on your ballot in 2018 with the first Charter Revision Commission that the mayor ran. And during that commission, people really wanted to see a centralized democracy, centralized local democracy, and more work from government to help build public trust, build greater confidence in government. And they wanted to see like an informational sort of clearinghouse that would help amplify and support the work of civic engagement, not just in government, but across the city, including with nonprofit partners and academic partners. And so voters voted for the creation of the Civic Engagement Commission, and I'm really honored to be a leader trying to set up this commission. And we are charged in the charter with doing a couple of things. One is just a very broad mission to strengthen and build civic engagement in New York City and to promote and really deepen civic trust. And interestingly, there's only one place in the charter that has the word civic trust, and it's in the mission of the Civic Engagement Commission. A lot of city agencies are charged with doing, community engagement, and they do a wonderful job. And I think the creation of the commission came at a time where people are really starting to look at what are the ways that government has not always followed through, right? And people are thinking about how is government disappointed communities, right? And how do we rebuild and strengthen that trust again? So that's our broad mission. And then specifically, programmatically, we have a couple of mandates that we are charged with fulfilling. One is to implement a citywide participatory budgeting program. And this is something that we are working to lay the infrastructure for, and hoping that we can see this unfold in the next, in the immediate future. We were stalled a little bit because of the COVID-19, the pandemic. A lot of face-to-face engagement has slowed down, and a lot of different city processes have slowed down as a result of that. But citywide participatory budgeting is one of our mandates. Another mandate is to implement a poll site language assistance program, where we are providing interpretation in addition to what the Board of Elections provides. So we're also working on that. Our first time out in the field was last November. We'll be doing providing interpretation services in the primary as well. And another area of work is to strengthen community boards. It's to help build the capacity of community board members to better connect with communities. And we want to see more people engaging with their community boards. So faith leaders, faith communities, attending community board meetings, getting involved in public hearings. So that's the kind of broad overview of our work. And we have a couple of really interesting programs happening that I want to share with you as well. In addition to that, one of the areas we're working in is with the Task Force on Racial Inclusion and Equity. There are 33 neighborhoods that have been identified by the city where the infection rates of COVID have been the highest, and we want to promote stronger access to treatment and vaccines and just better knowledge in those areas. So the city currently is running a program where we're building up the coalition building work that's already happening in our communities. We know that in the context of a pandemic and a disaster, faith communities and other communities that do a lot of grassroots organizing. And so the city is promoting coalition building in the 33 neighborhoods identified by the task force, and the Civic Engagement Commission is actually a lead implementing agency helping build capacity of these coalitions. And we are onboarding the lead organizations as we speak to lead some of this coalition work. They'll be doing ranked choice voting education, as well as vaccine education, getting involved with the participatory budgeting process in the next fiscal year as well. So that's one of our really exciting programs. And in the last couple of minutes that I have left, I wanted to actually share with you where we're located online so that you can access the information and hopefully share with your communities, particularly information on ranked choice voting education. So what I'm going to do is put 2 links into the chat and also share my screen and go through it with you, so you can get a sense of what's available in these sites, and hopefully you can help us share. And before I do that, I just want to also really say, thank you to the Interfaith Center and also our partners at the Center for Faith and Community Partnerships at the Community Affairs Unit, and you'll hear from Nancy later, and also the Racial Justice Commission. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to have this conversation with you all about how we think about that intersection of faith, civic engagement, and racial justice. I mean, I think, the faith leaders that are part of the Interfaith Centers network have, for me, always stood out as the most sort of authentic, able to engage in the space of being true to principles and really being a moral compass for government, and for all of us, for the entire city. So I think this conversation is really important to continue to strengthen the voices of faith leaders doing this work. So I'm going to put the links in the chat, and then I'll go through it with you. So I will share my screen somehow. Here we go. And can you all see, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. So the first place I wanted to show you is just our regular .gov website, which is the nyc.gov website. And if you go there, you will see an overview of what the Civic Engagement Commission is doing. And why I wanted to show you this is that in this area here, we will post our public meetings. And we just had a meeting in June. June 1st was our meeting, and you'll see this notice. And this is a meeting that anyone is welcome to come and attend. And why this is important is that in a public meeting, you have the opportunity to observe how government works, right? And the Racial Justice Commission also posts its public meetings online. And you don't have an opportunity to participate unless they're like at the end of our public meetings, we have a half an hour public comment where people can sign up to make comments. That doesn't always happen in public meetings, but it does give you a chance to observe the decision-making and process of government. That's under open meetings law. So I want to encourage people to try to attend public meetings as much as possible. And then you also have public hearings, which are opportunities to give comments on a particular topic that an agency might hold, want to hear for public input on. So there's also public hearings. And this website tells you more about our programs, our meetings, etc. We have a section in here specifically about voting, which tells you about different initiatives of the commission, including our full site language assistance program. The other website I put into the chat that I want to share with you is a really exciting platform that the Civic Engagement Commission developed. It's a resident engagement platform, and it's open source. It's the first time that city government launched this open source platform that allows people to interface. Anyone can interface with it and engage with it. And it's called participate.nyc.gov. And we use this platform to actually run the first youth-led participatory budgeting program, which was called It's Our Money. And in this program, we had youth lead a process where young people had a chance to say what issues matter to them. And based on the polling that we did through this platform, we then had organizations submit proposals. And young people, nearly 2,000 young people voted on those proposals. And we then funded the top 5 of the voted on proposals with $20,000 each. And those programs are currently running. So you can look on this website and you will see who the winners are. You'll see their proposals and you'll see different ideas that were generated. So this is a space to explore. Currently, we have another really exciting program I want to mention to you before I get to the voting, which is that we are launching this weekend a program called the People's Bus. We're taking a retired city vehicle and converting it into a mobile civic engagement on wheels. And we're going to be going to different neighborhoods all around the city starting this weekend and then continuing into August. There'll be a festival, a civic engagement festival. And so we want to have people get involved in the process of transforming this city vehicle. The city vehicle happens to be a retired vehicle from the Department of Corrections. So it's a profound transformation that we're hoping to engage New Yorkers in, from taking this space, which has a lot of pain and pain associated with it, into a space that can hopefully be a space of communities engaging, connecting, and building resiliency. So we'd love to have you participate in that process. The last space I wanted to share with you is the voting page on Participate. So if you click on, in the home page, you will see the voting center. If you click on that, you will get to this page, which is the voting center. And I would like to share with you all a bunch of work that the commission has done. One thing for you to know about is that we have a Know Your Rights PSA. This is available in 12 languages, and we want you to share this out with our communities. This PSA covers your rights when you go into a voting, and when you go into a polling place. One of the important rights that people have is to bring their own interpreter with them, to help them translate, right? The Board of Elections provides interpretation in certain languages. The Civic Engagement Commission provides interpretation in certain languages, but we don't cover every language and we don't cover every polling site. So we want people to know that they have the right to bring their own interpreter. So this PSA is available on this website in 12 languages. We want that to be shared. And then the other thing is that we also have a PSA on and information on early voting. And you will be able to find the poll sites that we are providing services in, right? By looking at Find My Poll Site, you can find your own poll site, and then the CEC sites. So I encourage you to do that. And then also we have some really great education here on ranked choice voting. Again, there's PSAs, there's palm cards that you can share. These PSAs are available in 13 languages. There's also palm cards in 22 languages. So I really want to encourage everybody on the call to please look at this website and share it with your community members. So I think I'm going to stop here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I hope that was helpful, a helpful resource to you all. And hopefully we can share it out also on a follow-up email with everyone. So thank you so much, Olila, for inviting us to share this information. And I look forward to continuing the conversation with the next speaker.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And you will be able to ask Sarah questions in our open Q&A. So you won't be talked at for, a long, long time. But we wanted to invite Jennifer Jones Austin, the CEO of FPWA, and also a member of the New York City Racial Justice Commission, and a strong woman of faith. And she was also a boss of mine for about 2 years, and she comes from a long lineage of ministers who are dedicated to social and racial justice. And so we want to bring Jennifer forward to share what faith leaders need to know about the New York City Racial Justice Commission, and also how you can get involved. So I'm so grateful to have you with us, Jennifer. I always slip and call you Reverend. I stopped today, but you know what that's about. But thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for all you do.
All right, let me just first begin by saying thank you to you, Reverend Alston. Only love in my life, in my world, that's how I think about you, for gifting me this opportunity to come and to share with the others. Dr. Saeed, it was good to hear you talking about the work that the Civic Engagement Office is doing. I just ended a conversation centered on ranked choice voting and appreciate so much the importance of the work that you're doing and ensuring that people across our city who otherwise, are sometimes kept out or feel kept out of the process are engaged. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And again, I just want to go back and thank you, Only Love, for bringing me into this group. I am no stranger to communities of faith, as was just shared, and I feel right at home whenever I have an opportunity to commune and fellowship. And I feel in some ways that what we're doing here is fellowshipping with one another as we are advancing the causes and concerns that are so near and dear to all of us. It's maybe not happenstance that on my screen, I can't see everyone, but I can see Bishop Rivera. And I'm delighted to see him. It's been a long time since I've been in his presence. And, I can't thank him enough for all that he does throughout New York City, not just for the community from which he comes, but for all New Yorkers. And all of you are doing the work that you do impacts everyone. So let me tell you a little bit about the Racial Justice Commission and about how you all can get engaged. And in the interest of time, and appreciating that you might have some questions, I'm really going to try to do this in 5 to 10 minutes. I'm not rushing because I don't want to tell you everything. It's really more, if there are comments or thoughts that you have that you want to share with me, I want to hear them. I have to depart from you at about 2 o'clock because I do a weekly program that I have to be on the air for at 2 o'clock. So let me just quickly tell you about the Racial Justice Commission. Founded, announced, put together by Mayor de Blasio back in late March. It is a mayoral appointed commission, but it is a commission that is independent of the mayor. So I think that's first and foremost that I need to know in terms of understanding what this is. Commissions, charter commissions, are appointed by the mayor. They may be appointed by the city council speaker and other members of the city council, but they're to serve as independent bodies. They are given a charge, and then they are to carry out that charge. The charge of the Racial Justice Commission is to examine the New York City Charter, which is the equivalent of the United States Constitution. And what I mean by that is the United States Constitution sets forth the value system, as well as the laws that then are to be carried out in accord with that value base. So we believe in America that people have the right to freedom of speech. The Constitution lays out the provisions for what freedom of speech looks like and should be about. And it speaks to, when freedom of speech rights can be restricted, but overall what people are entitled to as residents and citizens of the country. The New York Charter is similar. It sets up the powers and the authorities of the power holders. So it sets up what the elected offices look like, what the appointed offices look like, the roles and responsibilities for those persons who hold those offices. It lays out the operations of the city of New York, everything from how data is collected and on what, what the responsibilities are of the Department of Sanitation, the Department of Economic Development, the Child Welfare Administration, etc. And it speaks to the daily functioning of these different agencies. It speaks to mayoral offices, what they are intended to do and what they're not to do. The reason we have to look at the charter is because we've come to understand and appreciate that in America, racism, while based on certain values and beliefs about who is entitled, who is not, who is worthy, who is not, how it's been constructed to say that people of color and certain immigrant communities and even women or people who are non-conforming with respect to sexual identity and gender identity, what the charter does is it says, what their rights and opportunities and privileges are. Essentially what government has done through the years, New York City not being by itself, is essentially set up racist and misogynist, sexist systems through its laws. And the charter is the law of New York City. So what we are charged with doing is going in and examining the charter to essentially identify the laws as they are set up, how they work to perpetuate racism and racist practices, how they are set up to keep some people being continually, perpetually disadvantaged. What we're aiming to do is to look at specifically power, access, and opportunity. What does the charter say about who holds power, how they obtain power? So said differently, does the charter say anything about the New York City elected offices and the appointed offices being representative of the community? It says nothing about that. Well, maybe we believe that power should be more equitably distributed to look more like the people of New York City. That would mean that we would have to change the charter to do just that. The charter speaks to procurement practices and other operations. Well, if we believe that certain people in certain communities are disadvantaged when it comes to holding government contracts for human services, for medical services, mental health supports, for businesses, management of city funds, I could go on and on and on. Then we need to look at what does the charter say that either enables them to be disadvantaged or doesn't give them equal and fair opportunity. Then the third part is we want to look at opportunity. What we found through the years is that changes may occur in laws, societal laws that appear to give people access and equity. But when you look more closely at them and how they are administered, people are still disadvantaged. A great example that I always provide, because I think it nails it, is if you look at our New York City Department of Education, and if you look at the fact that we have a select finite number of specialized high schools, and it is said that all you have to do is take a test. And if you get a high enough score, then you can be a part of the incoming class for Stuyvesant, for Bronx High School of Science, or for Brooklyn Tech. It looks like everybody has equitable access. Just take that test. But what it misses is the fact that your educational outcomes have everything in this city to do with where you begin elementary school. That if you grow up in a low-income community, a community where a lot of people have lower incomes, that the school doesn't have the same resources as does the school in a more affluent community. Because when those PTAs get together in more affluent communities and they raise upwards of $500,000 to $1 million, and they can put robotics in the after-school program, or they can put a paraprofessional, or they can have on-site tutorial support, that makes the playing field all the more unequal. And so that child then who goes to that elementary school in a community where the incomes are lower doesn't have those same opportunities to get more learning, to get more tutorial support. That child then goes to a middle school based on competition that maybe isn't as strong. And then where that child goes to middle school has everything to do with where that child is able to go for public high school. And so the charter needs to look at and address issues like that. How do we make more equitable and real opportunities for everybody? So what we're doing right now is the work of laying out the framework centered on power, access, and opportunity. And then we're going to go in and look at this charter and look at these structural laws that either prop up inequity and maldistribution, inequitable distribution of power, or that actually begin to take a step towards doing something about it, and we're going to strengthen them. What ultimately will result is a set of proposals that the commission will vote upon that then has to go to the voting public for them to respond to either vote them up as changes to the charter or vote them down. Our fervent hope and prayer is that we will engage with the community, hear from the community, such that whatever we put forward for vote by the community is reflective of the community voice at large. And so this is where I believe you all come in. I'm very concerned We have on our commission very competent, diverse people who themselves have lived experience with racism in America, people who have been working in communities to address racism and all of the impacts that result therefrom. We have people who are diverse when it comes to race and ethnicity, nationality, religion, gender identity, sexual orientation, and the list goes on and on. We don't have everybody, and we understand that, but we couldn't get that in 11 persons. But it is our responsibility to make sure that we engage with the public to hear the voices and experiences as much as we can of everyone. And again, this is where I'm looking to individuals and leaders like yourselves to help us do that. The commission meets at a minimum monthly. There is the nyc.gov website, which you can go to learn more about the commission, and it will link you to our website, which is still in formation, but you'll get information about it. You can go there and you can learn about our public meetings that have begun. Our next public meeting is this coming next Friday, not this Friday, not tomorrow, but Friday, June 18th. And that's when we're really going to begin the work of public engagement. We're going to begin with talking to our civil rights leaders that are based here in New York City, who for decades have committed themselves to addressing systemic racism. Persons including Hazel Dukes, who all of you may have heard of or have worked with before, a member of the member of the board of the National Advancement for the Association of Colored People. She is also the president of the New York State chapter of the NAACP. Reverend Herbert Daughtry, a leader, a faith leader who has been working. He's considered to be the people's pastor in many parts of Brooklyn, and he's been working on systemic racism, worked with the SLC in Operation Breadbasket. We're going to be talking with Maurice Reed, who was a community organizer as part of the civil rights movement going back to the 60s. We'll be talking with Una Clark, who has brought forth the Caribbean American voice and the African American voice for many years and served in the city council. And then we'll be talking with John Scott out of Harlem, faith leader, Reverend John Scott, who was a part of SCLC and the leader in Operation Breadbasket. We deliberately begin, and I just think it's important to note this, with African American voices. It's done in part in connection with Juneteenth, but also understanding that in America, and sometimes people do not, readily embrace this, but in America, racism took hold initially through slavery, and essentially the nod for slavery in the United States Constitution, slavery against persons of African descent. And so we're centering there, in part because it's tied to Juneteenth, but because also we see that in our society, people of color at large, many immigrant communities have been impacted and continue to be impacted by that first original sin exacted upon people of African descent. And so that's where we're beginning. So that's the commission, what it's all about. We have to produce a report and in September for the public then to comment upon. And in December, we're going to, as a body, vote upon proposals that, if voted up, will then be brought to the community at large, the New York City community at large, beginning in January 2022, to be on in November 2022.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And that is a powerful lineup. And Sarah did share the links to New York City's Racial Justice Commission. So please stay in touch. But we do, before Jennifer has to go, I know someone had their hand raised. Oh, two have their hand raised. Anyone who wants to ask a question, please raise your hand now. Oh, I raised my hand, but I didn't mean to. Okay, so we're going to go to Danilo Archibald to ask a question. Okay, so Danilo, you can ask your question. Just introduce yourself and unmute well, unmute and then introduce yourself. And if anyone else has questions, please raise your hand, or you can ask them in the Q&A box. But you have to unmute Danilo. Okay. Hey, does anyone else have a question or a comment about what was shared? Yes, Bishop?
Yeah, it's a question. Does the commission have a life beyond this present mayor? Because is it part of the charter that was voted, or does the next mayor have the power to continue it or not continue it?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I mean, that is a seminal question, right? Like, is this real? You know, what's the real power of this commission? So the first thing to note is that the commission is actually in place for 2 years, for 2021 and 2022. A new mayor cannot come in and dismantle the system, the commission. A new mayor can come in and add to the commission. The other thing that is important to note is that once the commission submits its ballot proposals for the 2022 voting cycle, if you will, our work is technically done, and it cannot be undone by a new mayor. That's just the law. It can't be undone. The new mayor can't come in and say, I don't like these proposals, they're to be done with. Right? Now, keep in mind, it's supposed to be independent of mayors, and that's in part why they can't do that. A new mayor could come in and, you know, through the use of that platform, try to dismiss or color the proposals, try to kind of compete with them or oppose them. But they then go, they actually then come January are in the hands of the voting populace at large, and there can be a lot of discussion and debate about them. But a new mayor cannot shut it down, and a new mayor cannot dismiss, get rid of the proposals that are voted upon.
Do you think it would be a good thing in the compact for us to ask the mayoral candidates if they would commit to continuing this commission?
I think so. I think it's very important. I think in part because this is about racial justice, and this should not be about one mayor or another. And whatever mayor, whoever becomes mayor, we need to make sure that they understand what systemic racism is all about, the intricacies, and how it has affected, dare I say, every single one of us on this call and the communities that we represent. And if we don't have an incoming mayor committed to true racial equity, who wants to undo that, we got real problems. So yes.
Thank you. Okay.
And I have no bias in this. I'm just all about the issue. And this is a real opportunity for New York. It has never, for the country, this has never been done before. So if we can do this and be a model, why not?
Thank you so much, Jennifer, and thank you, Bishop. We have some questions in the chat. I'll ask Imam Bashir. Thank you so much for being on, Elder. He's asking, where is the Muslim community representation for African American and African community? And so Jennifer, and then we'll go to Dr. Edward.
Absolutely, that's an excellent point. So one of the things that we are seeking to do, fervently seeking to do, is to make sure that we engage with people of all faiths, races, and ethnicities. And what I would ask of this particular person, if it's okay, if you could give me I'm sorry, I'm forever calling only love, because that's how I came to know her first. And I love her name. And it's not at all a disrespect for who she is and all she does in this world. And for all of us,
No, it's
she's near and dear to me.
You grow up.
Yeah, so forgive me for that. Forgive me. But if I could have that person's name and information, because one of the things that I'm most concerned about is that we not consider one person as the voice for everybody. So I would love to hear from this person about how we can make sure that we have the voices that are reflective and representative of the Muslim community at large.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And then I'm going to ask, and Imam, if you can you can private chat me your information and we'll I'm trying to allow you, yes, you can talk now. And if you could just unmute yourself. Okay, Edward?
Yes.
Yes, would you, before you ask your question, Dr. Bashir, thank you so much. You have to go pick up your granddaughter, but we so appreciate you being here. And yes, issues of incidents of hate crimes against the Muslim community has increased. And Dr. Bashir, if you can just message me your email so I can connect you and Jennifer, that would be great. You're definitely a voice we want a part of this conversation, and thank you for all you do. So
I almost lost power, so that was the whole
yeah,
craziness.
yeah. Dr. Edward, you can ask your question now.
Okay, thank you for inviting me to ask my question. I thank God for the presentation, and then I became part of this program through Nancy Pascal. I'm not going to ask a question, but the problem I have is with the Children Welfare Department. All of us on this program, one time we were children. So what I'm trying to add is let us focus on our children. When Mayor de Brazil became the mayor of New York, Brazil became the mayor of New York, he introduced the universal pre-K. And very soon he will go out of power. They wanted to, the new person coming doesn't want to continue. We are talking about so many things. I'm talking about the future leaders of this nation. So Nancy Pascal invited me to go with Mayor to Albany to speak to the legislators for them to continue or to extend the universal pre-K for 3 years more, so that when Brazil goes out of power, the new person coming will continue. We talk and talk and talk, and they said they can never extend it. It must end with him. They were not thinking about the future of our children. That's the area I'm going to operate on this faith center. So I raised up my hand and I spoke. And when I spoke and I talked about No Child Left Behind, test quest, whereby I was assigned to so many homes in Brooklyn, in Manhattan, in Bronx, in Queens, and I met some students who were having some problems, but because of time, I can't go into details. And I cited one example, and when I cited that example, I said that if a person is in power and he has a good program, the new person coming must not discontinue it. He has to continue. So they accepted my suggestion, and they extended for 3 years. And then Brazil wrote a letter to me. It's a very brief letter. He said, I'm writing to express my deep gratitude for your outspoken support of an extension of mayoral control of New York City schools. Working together, we're able to secure a 3-year extension, which will allow all of us to continue focusing on improving educational outcome. And that is me when I spoke. So, my brothers and my sisters, let us continue focus on the future of our children. The one that you said, the Child Welfare Department. So God bless all of you that you have put me on this platform.
So Dr. Owusu, I so appreciate that that comment and that remark, and I too share in the belief that the Universal Pre-Kindergarten program has significant value, and is something that we need to be concerned about with respect to whether or not it lives beyond this administration. That is where the commission and the charter work comes in. So let me just give you an example of how this might work, how it could work. The Universal Pre-Kindergarten Program is a policy. It's a program that has come about as a result of Mayor de Blasio taking a policy position that early childhood learning should be available to all young children, right? Heretofore, we had half-day universal pre-kindergarten, but not full day. And it's been found that there are many values, many positives associated with full-day universal pre-kindergarten. The next mayor could come along and say, that's not a priority. And you know what? There's about $400 million that goes into full-day UPK. There's another several hundred million that's going into 3PK, 3K. I want to put that money somewhere else and just nix the program. It's done. And every parent of a 4-year-old or a 3-year-old now has to figure out where their child would go for that early learning experience. The New York City Charter could be revised to say that public education in New York City begins and is available to all with 3K or with universal pre-kindergarten. It could say that this becomes the law of New York City. Whereas we presently have a K through 12 program, we could say that by law, we have a pre-K through 12 program. And in changing the charter, no mayor could come behind, could come next and say, I want to nix universal pre-kindergarten. And that would be evidence of a structural law that is designed to level the playing field.
Thank you so much for that question, and thank you, Jennifer, for your response. We have some more questions from the chat that I wanted to get to. So Darlton Haskins asks, how can community leaders contribute to next week's discussions? And then we have another question that I will get to in the chat.
Okay, so the first thing that I do is I ask that you visit the website and that you visit it regularly. Because public engagement is critical to this process. We will, in the coming weeks, as we really gear up and ramp up public engagement, which is to occur beginning next week and running all the way initially, the first phase through August, we will be going out to communities through community papers and radio shows and things of that nature, getting the message out that we want to hear from the community. But you can also help us by going to the website and getting information about the upcoming meetings. Public meetings will be held between now and the end of August. And then we need you to show up. Initially, they're going to be virtual. And so you'll get information about how to show up and sign up and speak up. And then ultimately, we hope that come September through December, we'll be able to have some in-person conversations with members of the community. So that's the way you can get engaged. This first meeting is going to begin with these leaders who've been leading because we want to kind of level set and get some base knowledge, but then it's going to be open all the more to the public.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, and thank you for that question, Darlton. And now we have Yasharol Kahan, and he's asking, he said, amazing presentation. Is there any outreach or representation within the Orthodox Jewish community, especially where TV, radio, and other media, especially, I guess, when TV, radio, and other media outlets do not interact with them?
Absolutely. We need you to help us. I want there to be as much engagement with all people throughout New York City. Let me just back up and say that we know that, as I said a few minutes ago, racism extends to all persons of color. We know that bias and prejudice flow therefrom, and that people of different faiths, regardless of skin color, are part of the oppressive structures and oppressed people. And so we want to hear from different people and their experiences. We want people who actually, even in the position of, wondering, what more they can do to ensure that their structures, their entities, their institutions, their people are part of this process addressing oppression either as oppressor or as oppressed. And I'm not at all suggesting that includes anyone on this call. I'm just saying that's how we're thinking about it. What I'd love for you to do is to write to me. I'm going to give you my my email address. It's jjaustin@charter.nyc.gov. jjaustin@charter.nyc.gov. You can also go to the website and leave information there so that you can be contacted and we can make sure that you're a part. The questions, the thoughts that you have, that they are a part. And actually, I'm sorry, I just gave you nix that email address. I want to make sure you have the right address. I've got too many email addresses these days. So I want to make sure you have the right email address. It's J Jones Austin. So J Jones Austin with the dash between Jones and Austin. J Jones Austin at charter.nyc.gov. J Jones Austin at charter.nyc.gov. That's right. Thank you, Dr. Saeed.
Thank you so much for that question. And Jennifer's email is in the chat, and we appreciate all the questions. And thank you, Jennifer, so much for just answering the questions. But we also have the link to the meetings for the Racial Justice Commission in the chat. So make sure to check that out and show up and let your voices be heard. Do we have any other questions or comments before we close this section? Thank you so much, Jennifer, and thank you for all the work you do.
Thank you. Thanks for being a blessing. A big one.
Thank you. And I'll see you later. Have a blessed afternoon.
Thank you.
And now we have Nancy Pascal, who is the director of the Faith and Community Partnerships Office for the city. And Nancy, thank you for being another partner and co-sponsor for today. And thank you for all you do and all the faith leaders that you reached out to for this event. So we just want to turn it over to you to talk about the Mayor's Office of Faith and Community Partnerships. I mentioned how it came to be, but let us know what's happening now. And there have been some concerns that with the change of administration, that this office could go away. So can you also touch on that? And thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me. And it's good to see everybody on. Bishop Rivera, so good to see you. I've only heard your voice, I think since the census, it's the last time we really talked. And of course, everyone else on this call, and Dr. Sarah Saeed, who I worked with as well when I was with the center. I'm happy to see you guys. So keep it brief, because we're almost out of time. I'm going to quickly say that the Center for Faith and Community Partnerships was started through the mayor's office in conjunction with the mayor's CAC, which is the Mayor's Clergy Advisory Council. And together, they kind of birthed the center. And what we did was go throughout the city to open City Hall. This is before some of these other civic agencies were actually really involved. And what the mayor asked and tasked us to do was to not even focus on large houses of worship, but to really reach small houses of worship and really touch the communities in them. And to let them know what the city has to offer. So that is really what we did. I think the work that I'm most proud of, I think, in some of the work that we did, which we did so much good work. I think the two things were mental health, first aid training that we put out through the mayor's office, but through the First Lady, and also all the work that was done with immigration. We worked in conjunction with the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs, who was amazing. And together, we were able to share information with communities that did not speak English, that did not speak Spanish, that did not speak French. Communities that needed to hear what was happening with their immigration status. We were able to get into congregations and say to them, do not spend hundreds of dollars on or thousands of dollars on an attorney. Here's the number that you need. So that was our role. What I do want to say is, I think in we're coming up to Juneteenth. And I think the most important thing to really realize out of Juneteenth is how important and influential local government is. And when you're out of touch, when local government and you are not together, you can be manipulated. You can be enslaved. If you don't know what is happening. If you are not at the table, you are on the menu. And so I want to back up again. I want to back up again. Dr. Owusu, I think you're not on mute. What I want to back up and say is that what Dr. Sarah Saeed is doing, what the Interfaith Center of New York is doing, is they are, and what Bishop Rivera is doing, are things that are just being given another name. But in reality, faith has always been in the front lines of civil justice, always. You may not call it that, but the people on the front line for homelessness, for poverty, for the people who are discriminated against are people of faith. When we think about our civil rights leaders, they all come out of houses of worship. So you guys are there, but there needs to be an understanding of the mechanics. Many times faith is shut down because people don't see you as civil rights leaders when you all are. When a house of worship opens their door to one woman who says, do you have food tonight for my children? And that house of worship provides it, which I've seen across this city in every denomination. That is social justice. What people need to understand is that government is one size fits all. And the powerful work that's being done here is to work on some of the racial and discriminatory practices that have been going on. But I want to thank all the faith leaders out there for having done this work all their lives for 20 years, and join in with Dr. Sarah Saeed, join in with organizations like the Interfaith Center of New York, and learn more about the technicalities. And there was a lot of information given here. You can ask any one of these guys to come back and talk to you and your congregation and really share how it is that you can work and stay together. Once again, local government is one of the most important machineries, the pieces of politics that affect the people on the ground. So I thank you for this time. I'm not going to take any more of it. And I hope that you guys got the best out of this.
Thank you so much, Nancy, and don't go away too quickly because now we're going to take some open Q&A. If you have any questions for Nancy about the Mayor's Office of Faith and Community Partnerships, if you have any questions for Dr. Sarah Saeed on Mayor's Office of Civic Engagement, we want to have some time just for you to ask them questions. Also, if you have any suggestions for how these offices can partner with the faith community, so you can either put your hand up or ask a question in the question box or ask it in the chat. And yes, great information, Nancy. You were preaching. I almost said preach, Nancy, in the chat. So any questions? Because part of this is we want you to dialogue directly with these offices as faith leaders. And Bishop or Nikki, if you have anything to say as well. So Sandra Mitchell, I see you, Dr. Sandra, if you can just introduce yourself and ask your question.
Grace and peace. God bless you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Blessings to you.
Thank you. My name is Chaplain Sandra Mitchell, and I am an ordained chaplain at Zoe Ministries, and we are international, and it's home of the prophets.
Greetings, prophetess. You know, I fellowship with Zoe, and I'll be at the birthday party.
I've seen you. It was so good. And our Archbishop is our Master Prophet, E. Bernard Jordan. And yes, I see a very familiar face. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Wow, that's.
And Bishop Ray Rivera, God bless you. And Dr. Sarah Saeed and Nancy, the connector, hallelujah. And so I'm just so happy. I can't see everybody, but I think that's all I can see. I just want to say thank you for the space, Nancy. Thank you for you all being here. Thank you as a faith leaders in the community. My question is, everything is politics. I didn't know it at first. Everything is politics, from the bodega on the store to the on the corner to the supermarkets to everything. You know, someone had to go somewhere in order to talk to someone in government in order to have that space to build the apartment building, whatever. And so now here it is. Now I'm in the know. I want to know for the faith leaders, the community sometimes feel disconnected. They don't know if they will be accepted. They feel ashamed of their situations or what have you. And they're not coming in, and especially with COVID, they're not coming in. So my question is, how are we coming out? How are we coming out of that brick and mortar and, you know, extending our hand to say, it's okay, you know, you're going through and we're here to help you, you know, asking the community what it is that they need. The community is not going in. And as I hand out flyers and what have you, the community is not trusting government and they're not trusting our religious leaders. So what are we doing in order to extend our hand to let them know we're here for you and we won't shun you and we do love you and we are here to help? Any suggestions?
Thank you. So Sandra and Sarah.
I want to thank you for that question. I think it's really important to put on the table the state we're in, right? And you're so right that the trust is very low of government. And I'm surprised to hear about the part about trust in faith leaders. I think that part of what's going on here for the government side is certainly that, you know, government has not always lived up to its promises. Politics and politicians and elected officials, they've certainly disappointed people in all kinds of ways. And I think the other thing that's happening right now in this moment is that people have been sort of, you know, stuck and isolated during the pandemic. And I think they're traumatized in all kinds of ways. And it's very hard to emerge from that and to go back into a place where we're connecting with each other in public spaces with you know, our trusted leaders, because so far, like over the last year, we've really been closed in. So I think that for me, as somebody who works in government, both of those dynamics are at play. So what we're trying to do and hope to do in partnership, even with faith leaders, is just create more space for people to connect and have conversation, right? So if you wanted us to come, you know, to your house of worship or connect with your community, you know, we want to do more and more of those kinds of public engagements. And there's, I think, from all my time working at the Interfaith Center, one thing I learned is that there's nothing better than just getting into the same space with people, right? And having conversation, breaking bread together, all of those things. And so that is like a fundamental way that we can get past a little bit of the trust barrier. I also think, like with the work of racial justice, the work of building trust is going to be ongoing. And it's something that we need to always pay attention to. It's not something that we can solve like overnight. And I think the faith leaders have a really important role to play in continuing to be kind of the moral voice and continuing to exert pressure and influence and leadership to guide city electeds and politics and government to do the right thing and continue to promote justice for our communities, because you're kind of the steady voice in the conversation, right? I mean, electeds come and go, they change offices, like their terms are finished, they move on, but you all are continuing to be there. And faith communities that you work with, I mean, it's so important for them to be civically engaged. For you to work with them to build their engagement, build their connectivity, because like I said, again, they're the steady, they're the constant in all of this.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And we want to, Nancy, anything you wanted to say? And then Bishop will come to you, and then we'll, we have a question from the phone, and Dr. Edward, we see you.
No, I'll give it to Bishop. He had his hand up. I defer to the Bishop.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, this is just a comment, and for Joel that's on, and Chloe and yourself. I think that the way we strengthen, to answer our sister from Zoe, is that we make sure that the people that we're dialoguing with are not what I refer to as issue junkies. And that means they're just involved in issues in an abstract way, but they don't have deep relationships in the community. So we have to make sure that our issues are bottom up and that our faith leaders are connected to the grassroots. And that's what happened in some ways with the covenant, and now the continuing process of the compact. We got to make sure that it's connected to the base. One of the things that we did early on with the covenant was, as you remember, we had meetings where thousands of people attended at Riverside, in the boroughs. So there was a movement behind the covenant. There was a movement behind what we were saying. And we have to make sure that those of us at a citywide level are connected to the base and are connected to those leaders. That's why I think the Office of Faith-Based Partnerships to some degree was important. First with Jonathan, then with Reverend Addison, and now with Nilda, because it provided information for people that wanted to serve, that wanted to do daycare, that wanted to do housing, that wanted to do immigration. But the part that we've all have said that was not significant enough with the Clergy Advisory Council, we didn't impact policy that much. And the mayor with the council would come and would share with us what it was more the city's agenda. And while we supported it, by and large, there was not that much input into policy. So in this compact document, I'm talking to Sarah now, and I don't know if Jennifer's still on. What we're trying to say is we don't only want to be involved in the service aspect, but we want people in the room where policy is being developed. And I think the Civic Commission and the Racial Commission, this is for us at Micah and all the other faith groups. We have to use the faith community to impact policy, to impact the charter, to hopefully write new laws. And I'm going to affirm what I said before, that I think we should put into the compact that these commissions are important and that their continuation are important, in addition to the Office of Faith-Based Partnership not being involved only in service, but being involved also in policy. While government is an instrument that we have to learn to use, sometimes we have to critique it, and sometimes we have to say that it has to go further. So the faith-based office should be supportive of these commissions, supportive of their continuation, so we can have more participation, regardless who's the mayor, regardless of who's the mayor in the future.
Thank you, Bishop. Excellent, excellent points. Thank you. And Apostle Stacy Ramos is with us, and we want to acknowledge her as a Garden of Gethsemane Ministries and NYPD liaison and co-founder of Daughters for Justice with myself and Reverend Chloe and others. So Apostle Ramos, if you want to unmute and say something. I thought you wanted.
I think I'm here. Thank you so much, Minister Only Love, and hallelujah, the ecclesia on the line, the clergy, the community. I just wanted to acknowledge that I'm in support. I'm with you all, and I know there's so many things that need to be done, and Garden of Gethsemane Ministries is with you. So if anybody needs any information from me or how to connect with us and what we're doing in the Harlem community and beyond, please feel free to get our information for Minister Only Love as we work together, also with Daughters for Justice. I love you all, and we are pushing, and we will give peace a chance. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. And Apostle Ramos is on the street. She has cleaned up her block in West Harlem. She and I, she's not someone that just talks about issues. I've been with her to her streets. You know, reaching the people. So she does phenomenal cure violence work. And so we appreciate her. And so Dr. Edward Owusu, you can unmute and ask your question.
You can hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. And any other, oh, sorry, Dr. Edward.
Okay, in the first place, I say thank you, the host. I've not gotten your name yet. Thank you for what you're doing. And I also say a big thank you to Bishop Rivera, Dr. Sarah, and then Jennifer, and Pascal, Nancy Pascal. What I want to add to this, our discussion is Nancy Pascal has been working very, very, very hard. I met her for the first time at Faith Leaders meeting. It took place at New York Hotel on 8th Avenue and 34th Street. I just handed over a flyer of the meeting he came late, and he looked at my face and he got connected with me. And since that time, he has been inviting me to meetings. He's a hardworking lady in the New York State. Like what Dr. Bishop Rivera was saying, many of us in the communities we've gone into our shelf. We don't know what is happening in the community. So the time has come for those of us who are very serious for us to spread this very good news so that we can change the wrong things that are going on in the society. When I came to America here, one of the major things I learned was united we stand, but divided we fall or we fail. United we stand, but divided we fall or we fail. We have our differences, but at times we have to overlook our differences and work together. So that is my contribution. Nancy Pascal has been working very, very, very hard. She got me, and I was able to speak at Albany, and they extended the universal pre-K. It was through a Nancy. And when the mayor was going to Albany, he was the one that invited me, and I was able to help him for them to extend this program for 3 years. My last addition to what I've said is the host of this program, and then the leaders that I've just mentioned your names. After the election, the new mayor, we have to stand with the new mayor of New York and fight hard for them to introduce the No Child Left Behind test quest for teachers to go to the homes of the students who are not doing well in schools, for us to go back to their homes to teach them. The experience I've had is enormous, and we have to come together. Make sure you can put it on any plans that you have, that No Child Left Behind test quest must be introduced so that after school, then some teachers will be assigned to go and help these students because they are the future leaders of our nation. Right now also, I'm helping a lot of the undocumented. I have more than 100, and I'm working very hard on it, how I can help them to get their papers. And some of them also, they don't have access to anything, and I'm also helping them. And so I thank you for this program, and we shall continue to work together because united we stand, but divided we fall or we fail. God bless all of you.
So I'm gonna jump in really quickly. Sorry, because we are out of time. Dr. Owusu, people are gonna think I paid you to get on this call, but
you didn't pay me.
no more questions out of you, Doctor. You are the best. But what I want to say is, I wanted to just point to something that Bishop Rivera said, and I think that's really important. Is that faith did need the fact that this was the first time it was ever done, because there is a cutoff between church and state. There's a law that says that church and state should be separate. They are not the same. And so one of the struggles that we had as the Center for Faith and Community Partnerships was being even included ourselves within the mayor's office. And so what I'd love to remind people is that it was the first time being done. So there were a lot of trying to figure out where we fit in. And there were expectations on both sides that weren't met. And so the beauty of this is that now that we know what we don't want, what doesn't work, what faith really wanted to get out of it, I think that what is being suggested here with the commission is going to be brilliant, because faith does need a space. We come to faith for everything. Okay, there's nothing we don't come to faith for. When people ask me in the administration, what do you talk to faith leaders about? That is the problem. When someone asks you, what do you talk to faith leaders about? That is the problem, faith leaders out there. Because I say, my answer is anything social justice. Everything and anything social justice, that's what we talk about. We talk about homeless, we talk about food, we talk about discrimination, we talk about gun violence. They're the ones in the prison. So it's really up to faith to also identify themselves, not just as faith leaders of God or spirituality, but they are the faith leaders of bringing hope and support and resources to their communities. And so I think that was the frustration, where people, clergy, come with a vast amount of knowledge and understanding of what the community is suffering and what is working, and how to translate that to the government has where we get stuck. And many times it's not faith, many times it's the both of us. Faith expects everybody to understand what they do and thinks that everybody knows what they do, and they really do not. And so faith, again, has to also identify themselves, to what Sandra Chaplin said, continuously identify what you're doing and what you do, and showing more of your work, because I have been extremely impressed by the faith leaders of New York City.
Thank you so much, Nancy, and thank you, Dr. Edward. And I can hear you're from Ghana, so great to have you on. Great, thank you for all the work you do with our undocumented brothers and sisters. And so we thank everyone for the questions. We want to thank all the partners and panelists and Bishop, but we do have a very powerful closing reflection from our sister Nikki Singh at the Sikh Coalition, which is a very important partner in the work of the Interfaith Center of New York. But before that, we do want to talk about next steps, because I'm an organizer, so I don't just have gatherings, we want to talk about some next steps. So Dr. Sarah, if you could briefly talk about the faith meetings that you all are planning, and then I have a next step from some of us that are on this call. Thank you so much, everyone.
We'd love to have, just really briefly, we'd love to do an event like this again, and like have you share with more faith leaders, bring your community members along as well to learn more about the Civic Engagement Commission and also the Racial Justice Commission, and just the work of the city overall. And would love to also see if we can come and talk with some of your communities, one-on-one, your community members about the Civic Engagement Commission. And we're hoping to hold an event like this a little bit later in the summer. So we'll be in touch again about that. And I think the most immediate follow-up for everyone is really to use the next couple of days. We only have a few days left before early voting begins. So please help share the word. All the videos and palm cards information that I shared with you, please get that out to communities, encourage people to vote, and help them get educated before they get to the poll site. So really would love to also hear from you about what you think of these materials, how it's going, how your outreach is going, and look forward to continue to partner with you. The Civic Engagement Commission was actually voted into existence. So we're going to be continuing to perpetuity until people vote us out. So we're looking forward to continuing to build the infrastructure and the office. And I personally do think it's very important for the commission, and the commissioners also have talked very often about the importance of building faith engagement for the Civic Engagement Commission. So we'll continue to stay in touch with you all about that work and build a stronger partnership with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And from the Interfaith Center of New York, and also Union Theological Seminary and the New York Board of Rabbis and Latino Pastoral Action Center, the Buddhist Council of New York, Muslim Community Network, Sadhana Coalition of Progressive Hebrews, and the Hindu Temple Society of North America. We will be having a mayoral candidates roundtable on Monday at 12:30. It will be digital and for an hour, and you can register for that. It's called Face to Faith, Mayoral Candidates Reimagining a Diverse New York City, and you can register right at that link, and we hope you will join us for that. Also, please sign up for the email list and visit the websites that were dropped in the chat so that you can get involved. But we thank you so much for being on. We thank all the partners. And now we want to just end with a powerful reflection from Sister Nikki Singh of the Sikh Coalition of New York. Please follow their work. They're doing powerful work representing this important community in our city. So thank you so much, Nikki, for being with us.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. Happy to be in community with you all. And I know we're close to the end, so I'll keep it brief and kind of just wanted to, share a reflection on some of the Sikh teachings that hopefully can be helpful to us in all of the work that we do. And so, the Sikh faith calls on us to actively take on social justice work. We believe when people are truly connected spiritually, we will feel moved to reduce suffering and seek justice. And so this balance of internal and external is captured by the Sikh concept and practice of Miri Puri, which is that we must engage our inner cultivation while extending our love beyond ourselves. And so it's this basic outlook really that creates a foundation for Sikhs to actively participate in our communities. So what does this intersection of spiritual life and civic engagement look like in practice? So within the Sikh faith, it's about engaging in seva or service, and not just service, but selfless service. So, making sure that we are donating our sometimes income, resources, time to charitable work, to ensuring that there is always a community meal longer served at Gurdwara, Sikh houses of worship. And it's also the reason that, the Sikh community is one of the first that's often responds to natural disasters or humanitarian crisis. And, we've seen a lot of that work kind of front and center over the past year during the COVID-19 pandemic. Even here in New York City, there's a lot of Sikh youth that had organized to send food to hospital workers. So really putting that seva work into practice. And it's also about bringing people together and helping communities celebrate their common humanity. And so beyond charity work, Sikhs also actively believe in participating in civic engagement. And so we believe in Sarbat Tabala, which is blessings and well-being for everyone. So when we're doing civic engagement work, when we're participating in activism, when we're fighting for civil rights, that's not just for the Sikh community, but it's for all communities that need strength and solidarity and resources and support. And so I just want to end with the Sikh idea that of Chardikala, which is to live in eternal optimism. And I know a lot of this work that we all do, can be hard and it's not easy. And it can sometimes be draining and challenging. But, I think when I sometimes start to feel that way, I come back to the community, not just the Sikh community, but this larger community that we're all a part of. And, really go back to this idea of living in Chardikala and internal optimism. And I hope that will help you all as well as we continue this work together. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nikki, Sikh Coalition, for all you do. And thank you everyone who came. We hope you get plugged in, and we hope that you continue to do something to serve the people outside of the four walls of your house of worship. But thank you so much, everyone. And any closing words, Dr. Sarah or Nancy or Bishop?
No, just to say thank you really to everyone who came. And I think it's always an honor and a privilege to connect with faith communities and faith leaders in New York City. And I hope that as this administration moves on at the end of this year, that the relationship between government and faith continues to build on all the good work that was done this year. So we look forward to your, continuing advocacy and just building partnerships with faith communities on behalf of the Civic Engagement Commission, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything from you, Bishop, or anything in closing from Nancy?
Well, just to say that, people try to dichotomize our faith, like you said, between the secular and the sacred, but we believe faith and justice walk together.
Yeah, thank you, Bishop. You've been teaching us that for years. I almost want to say amen. And then Nancy, anything you have in closing?
No, I actually want to thank everybody. It's been a pleasure. I've worked with Bishop Ray Rivera. I've seen his work. I've worked with Dr. Sarah Saeed, and these are powerful, powerful people. And the faith leaders out there, you are also very powerful, whether you have a tiny congregation of 3 or 3,000. You are powerful. And I see the work that's being done. And I'm very happy and excited about what the future holds and how New York City works with faith leaders in the future. So thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to seeing the civic engagement that comes out of all of this. I think we learned a lot through this administration. I'm really proud and happy that it's going to be pounded out and it's going to be even better.
Yes, thank you so much. And good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for being with us.